Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Happy Monday. We got a lot to get to. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. It's actually quite stunning. My team and I have been having a lot of text exchanges this morning. First, there's this. Crime is dropping in Washington, D.C. It's all part of Trump's racist fascism, trying to stop the murders there. Just let's be clear on that, okay? The reason murders have stopped for the past 13 days is because Trump is a racist fascist who wants black people in particular to live. Following? Okay. That's all you need to know about Trump's federal takeover. That he is there's no limit to his hate for people of color. He wants them all to live. He'll stop at nothing to protect them and make sure they live happy, thriving lives. That's what a pig he is. Sending in troops to Washington, D.C. to make sure that it is safe and lovely and reclaiming Union Station from the homeless. I'm sorry, there's been no one since Jim Crow who's this bad. Okay, very clearly I'm being facetious. It's ridiculous. His federal takeover of the DC police force is working beautifully. Crime is down double digits up and down the board. And the murders have stopped for almost 2 weeks now, which is some sort of a record. There was one stint at the end of February into March where we had 16 days, which is beating Trump's current record of 14 days without a murder. But it's pretty good. I'm thinking if you're in D.C., you're happy. No one's getting murdered. Unless you're one of the loons who thinks it's Trump's racism that led to the no murders and therefore we prefer the murders. That's literally where we are with the left's criticism of this police effort that Trump's engaged in. And now President Trump is saying that he's considering sending troops to Chicago next. Now, that's going to be tougher. D.C. has this Home Rule Act, which allows him specifically to do it to D.C. because that's where the federal government is seated. But there's no such rule for any of the 50 states. And unless you have the cooperation of those states, in particular their governors, it's going to be a lot harder. Or the mayors of these specific cities he's looking at, it's going to be a lot harder. And now, we're going to get into a real battle when it comes to what his powers are and how far over them, if at all, he's allowed to go. Plus, President Trump taking aim at the notorious cashless bail policies in liberal cities. Let me tell you something. Back in 2019, when I was out of a job and sitting on the couch, I met with a bunch of very well-funded people who either were offering to or were considering, or I was talking to the possibility of funding maybe a company, a media company of mine. As you know, I wound up funding it all myself. I just decided I didn't want to take anybody's money in the end, though I had many offers to do it. But I'm thrilled I didn't. And one of the guys I talked to, who shall go nameless, was a very, very rich guy in New York City. And he was telling me his number one issue was cashless bail. He wanted it. He was a lefty who, he's kind of center, but it was his number one issue, that he wanted to make sure we went to cashless bail in New York because he thought bail was racist and it hurt poor blacks in particular who couldn't post bail and therefore had to sit behind bars while awaiting hearings on their charges. And he got his way. In 2019, we went to cashless bail in New York. And it's not just New York. It's cities across the United States that in the wake of, George Floyd in some cases, and just in the midst of Wokapalooza in other cases, got rid of bail, got rid of cash bail as a thing, which leads to a revolving door of criminals accused going into the police station 1 hour and out the next, only to repeat the same crimes. There's almost no deterrent because then if they ever do come back in, there's prosecutors who don't want to prosecute crime and judges who don't want to throw the book at these people. And more and more, we're seeing these bleeding heart juries who want to convict anybody not named Donald Trump. It's want to acquit anyone not named Donald Trump. So we're going to get to that. But we're going to start with this. There is yet another member of the government who was appointed by Joe Biden, who is accused of mortgage fraud. Okay, we have Adam Schiff, one-time House member, now senator from the state of California, who's been accused of mortgage fraud by the DOJ. We've got Letitia James, Democrat Attorney General of the state of New York, who went after Donald Trump for fraud involving banks. Her $550 million judgment with interest against him was just reversed on Thursday. We covered it. She's facing accusations of mortgage fraud. Both of them deny these accusations. And now we've got a third. This woman is on the board of governors overseeing the Federal Reserve. It's got 7 members on it. They kind of run herd over there in addition to the Fed chair himself. But her name is Lisa Cook. And I want you to know she's the first and only black woman to hold that position. This is a very big deal because she's the first and only black woman to ever hold that position. And did I mention she's black and a woman? And she's the only one to, yeah. So that, and what that means, if you read the press, is don't fucking touch her. That's what that means. Read the New York Times. You touch her, including if she committed a crime, you're racist. You also are racist, just like Trump trying to get rid of the murdering in D.C. That's racist. And prosecuting crime against black defendants is racist. It's all racist if it involves Democrats, which she is. Miranda Devine reporting in a great piece in the New York Post this morning on it, talking about how this woman was one of 4 Joe Biden hires. She says it in the way only Miranda Devine can. It's actually quite funny. She says something to the effect of, hold on, let me find it. Where is it? Oh gosh, I can't find it. But she says something like, this was part of the Joe Biden weird DEI obsession when he went through this odd period. She talks about Joe Biden's odd period of just appointing people based on skin color. And this woman was the beneficiary of that, this Lisa Cook. So she got this appointment. And as it turns out, even though we believe Lisa Cook lives full-time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, she's got a condo in Atlanta, Georgia that she listed, both of them listed, as her primary residence. And as we've all learned, thanks to Tish James and Adam Schiff, you're not allowed to do that. It's mortgage fraud. She denies it, and she's got her left-wing advocates running cover for her. I will go through with you what the New York Times is writing about this. Here's a preview. It's racist, but it's really an incredible story. Joining me now to discuss it all, D.C. resident Emily Jashinsky. She's host of After Party with Emily Jashinsky on the MK Media Podcast Network. It's available to you live every Monday and Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, and Emily is crushing it. People are loving the show. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. What will the effect of the sparring between President Trump and the Federal Reserve be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And what does this mean for your savings? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898 and consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead for yourself. Welcome back. Great to see you. One half of the EJ.
Thanks, Megyn. Reporting to you live from occupied D.C.
I'm sorry about the racist fascism that has come to your city to stop the murders. I don't know how you're dealing with it. Single tear?
Yeah, keep us in your prayers, Megyn.
I will do. Okay, so Lisa Cook, a name virtually nobody knew prior to last week, but she's the third person referred to the DOJ by this mortgage guru, Pulte is his name, who's taking a hard look at mortgage fraud. And this guy has said, look, mortgage fraud is quite serious, and it hurts us all when people commit it, because you could go so far as watching a banking system collapse if enough people commit it. It's kind of what we saw with the 2008 financial meltdown. You can't have people getting more favorable terms by saying their summer house is their primary residence, because you get better mortgages on your primary residences than you do on your vacation homes, because they assume if you hit hard financial times, you're going to pay the mortgage of the home in which you really live, not the vacation home. That's going to be the first you let go into default. So they might charge you a little bit more on your mortgage rate on a second home. That's why it's bad and technically illegal to lie and say your vacation home is your primary residence, because you know exactly what you're doing. You're getting a more favorable rate under fraudulent terms. And this is exactly what's gotten Adam Schiff, Letitia James, and now Lisa Cook in trouble. All of them deny the allegations. But here's what we have with this woman. It's very interesting because she has been in the crosshairs, potentially, of Trump for a while, and a leftist, God would be too strong, but heroine isn't, for quite some time. Biden elevated her for this position, and when she was elevated, she wanted us all to know how impossible it is to be a woman in economics and how really impossible it is to be a black woman in economics. Really, really impossible. Poor, poor Lisa Cook with her vacation home and her main residence in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is not a cheap town, by the way, and her very prestigious position on the board of governors of the Fed. But poor Lisa is a victim, you see, of the big bad United States of America and its racism against black women. Here's a couple highlights about her. This is National Review writing about her in 2022 when she was so controversial because not qualified for the Federal Reserve Board that nobody wanted to vote for her. Kamala Harris had to come in and break the tie, cast the deciding vote on her because they didn't want to vote for her. They didn't think she was qualified. But Joe Biden and his people thought it was because she was a black woman because all Republicans are racist. So a National Review did an article on her in 2022. Biden Federal Reserve Board nominee has supported reparations for black Americans. Quote, everybody benefited from slavery. Everybody, Lisa Cook said in September 22 on a podcast. Sorry, 2020. Oh, we have it. Here it is. Let's listen to Lisa Cook in her own words.
Everybody benefited from slavery. Everybody in the economy at the time. We absolutely need some sort of reckoning with that. There are many proposals on the table to study the possibility of reparations, many economic proposals being put forward, and I think they should all be taken seriously.
Reparations. By the way, I feel like my imitation was good, right? Like I hadn't heard the SOT. I only read it. Everybody benefited, EJ. And I'll get you in 1 second the rest of her tweets, which are equally radical to what you just heard there, pushing for reparations. And now this woman is on the receiving end of the mortgage fraud treatment. And by the way, then the New York Times comes in to do a long piece on how everyone is racist. That is criticizing Lisa Cook. After all, the New York Times wants us to know, she has written a piece, her best-known academic paper, showing how lynchings and other violence against black Americans in the late 19th and early 20th centuries reduced the number of patents black people filed. Well, duh. I mean, if you lynch any particular group of people, it's going to reduce what they do in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I think that's a given. But she did a whole paper on it that she's supposed to be lauded for, and that should render her immune from criminal prosecution forevermore. Because again, only racists would pursue a black woman in a field where black women are not common, and it doesn't matter that she may have committed mortgage fraud. Emily Jashinsky.
So I was reading the splashy New York Times feature on her, and as you know, you're going from paragraph to paragraph, I'm thinking, this has to have been written by a white guy. Sure enough, a Columbia graduate living in Brooklyn wrote the story about how difficult it is. And of course, this is what it was sort of amusing about it, because it was trying very subtly. It was very suggestive that, you know, it's very, very difficult to be Lisa Cook, a black woman in her field, and suggesting that she is being targeted, not because she may have done something wrong. And Megyn, this looks like, I mean, the evidence here so far looks like a pretty clear-cut case. Of course, we'll wait to see more, but it looks like a pretty clear-cut case. And the suggestion is that Trump is targeting her subtly. That's the suggestion throughout this New York Times piece, because she is a black woman, and not because Trump, of course, was first targeted because he was Trump by people like Letitia James and people like many, many others throughout the Democratic Party, whether in Georgia or New York, who said, hey, we're going to start prosecuting white-collar crime, ... if it was committed by Donald Trump or somebody around Donald Trump. And that is basically where you stop and start on this one, that like the reason Lisa Cook is under a microscope for this particular allegation is because A, it's a clear-cut case, and B, because, yeah, of course, they started doing this to Trump, so Trump is now turning around on them, and they do not like it.
That's where they draw the line.
No, that's inappropriate and will not be tolerated.
So this woman is a piece of work, EJ. I guess we need to know that the purchases predate her 2022 appointment to the Fed 7-member board. Yeah, this is where Miranda Devine writes, one of 4 diversity appointments made by Biden as part of his peculiar obsession with identity politics above all. She's exactly right. The investigation is understood to include questions over whether Ms. Cook misrepresented her mortgage situation to the board when she was being vetted. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I guarantee she did. There's no question in my mind we're going to find out she did, because this is an economics post. Like, what is the Federal Reserve Board for? They're to oversee monetary policy involving the United States economics, and the Fed chair, you would have to have a squeaky clean financial background in order to make this post.
Way, you govern a little something that matters to people called mortgage rates.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to put myself out on a limb and say, I guarantee you Lisa Cook misrepresented the mortgage situation to those she interviewed with when being vetted. And Trump, when he found out about this last week, went to Truth Social to demand that Ms. Cook, quote, resign now or be fired. And then Pulte, the guy who's like finding all these cases, who's trying to clean up the mortgage fraud situation, saying no one takes mortgage fraud seriously. They will when I'm done. That's he's like, I'm a one-man wrecking ball. I'm going to figure out whether there's a 2008 crisis looming from all the people who've been getting away with this, especially people who are in positions of power. So Pulte is just sort of this badass, take no prisoners dude. He responded on X, quote, the president has great cause to fire Lisa Cook, and then alleged that Fed Chair Jerome Powell might be complicit with Cook's alleged fraud. So that's incredible. Her term is not up until 2038, but if she's forced to resign, Miranda points out, over the mortgage fraud allegations, Trump will be able to appoint a governor of his choice to replace her, thus flipping the balance of the Fed in his favor, 4-3, and putting the heat on Powell. So everyone's going to say, oh, this is a political move by Trump. He's picking on her because he wants to control the board. I don't know what the truth is here, one way or the other, but I do know it'd be really helpful to her cause and those who are supporting her if she didn't do it. If they looked at the Ann Arbor mortgage application and the Atlanta mortgage application and found all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, like virtually every human does, because they're afraid of getting it wrong on documents like that, which we all know are legal documents, Emily.
Well, and this is incredibly sensitive to the average American right now, especially to people, by the way, my age, like 20s and 30s, who are trying to buy a house. So bad time to be under the microscope for potential mortgage fraud as a Federal Reserve governor. That's not going to help her one bit. I don't know what, like you said, I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with Trump, but I asked Trump last month. I was in the press pool when he was touring the Fed, which was a spectacle, to say the very least. It was quite a day to be in the press pool, and asked him, because he keeps saying accurately that where the rates are right now is hurting people's ability to afford life, to buy homes, to have that stability that comes with it. So I said, well, why not just fire Powell? Why not why wait? Why, if that's happening, why allow that to go on for another 8 months or whatever it was at that point? And he said, well, because it's a really big thing to do that, and I don't think that it's necessary right now. So does that then translate to Lisa Cook, who is not Jerome Powell, does that actually mean that Trump then feels more comfortable sort of putting a shot across the bow with somebody like Lisa Cook when you have all of this playing out, because the political structure around her is so sensitive that if you tell an average American, well, he got rid of her because it looks pretty clear that she committed mortgage fraud and you guys can't afford a mortgage, so why should she be able to commit fraud when the rates right now are so high that you can't buy a house? I mean, that is not politically a difficult argument for Donald Trump to make.
That's so true. Having secured herself lower mortgage rate mortgages, she then turned around and wanted to F everyone else, pulling up the ladder behind her. People who weren't prepared to commit the same fraud she allegedly did. All right, so here's a little bit more about Lisa Cook and why the New York Times, we're going to get into this New York Times piece, but this is why the New York Times decided to run cover for her this weekend. Even though no one's above the law, Emily, no one is above the law. The left has told us this for 4 years. She retweeted Ava DuVernay. Quote, "This is what defund the police means. Don't let white nationalists and Trump make you afraid of the term. Defunding the police means defunding armed responses to issues that don't need a gun." And I guess Lisa Cook and Ava DuVernay are going to figure out which situations require a gun and which do not. Cool. I'd feel safe as a cop, wouldn't you?
Well, this is how we know Lisa Cook is rich.
Yes,
she wants to defund the police. She thinks it's a great idea.
True.
That's how we know.
Yeah. All right, here's another one. She retweeted about Tom Cotton's 2020 op-ed about sending the troops in to restore order. "Running this puts my Black New York Times colleagues in danger." Remember when one of the New York Times writers wrote that? Yeah. Lisa Cook retweeted it. "She's in danger. I'm in my big house in Ann Arbor, Michigan." She's probably looking at her lake views, wondering like, "Oh, how's my condo doing? Could I get an extra extension built onto it? Can I get the full condo soon? What can I have? Oh yeah, retweet. My Black New York Times colleagues are in danger. Yes, I'm part of the struggle." She retweeted somebody saying Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, who had just banned COVID masks, who wrote, quote, "He's literally trying to murder us, especially BIPOC people."
That is unserious. I mean, this is somebody who is a federal, that is so deeply unserious for the position that she holds.
BIPOC, in case our listeners have forgotten, is Black, Indigenous persons of color. She herself tweeted in 2020, "I agree with Angela Merkel that free speech has its limits." Okay, so she's a radical leftist. That's why Joe Biden elevated her. Let's be honest. He elevated her because of the skin color and the lady parts. But this is all a bonus. This is all the cherry on top of the sundae. And this is the stuff that really made the New York Times fall in love with her. So they enter in, and you would think maybe, when they assigned the chief economic correspondent of the New York Times, who you mentioned a minute ago, Ben Castleman, that he would write a straight news piece like, "I'm the chief economics correspondent, so I need to care about mortgage fraud and the banking system and quality people running it." You would be hard-pressed to even find the passing mention of the allegations against Lisa Cook. Instead, you will be subjected to things like this. Quote, "They are trying to paint this woman of color as someone who is unworthy of wealth." What? She's unworthy of wealth because they thought there was funny business with her mortgage applications based on the words she wrote in them. Okay. They go on to say she's one of just a handful of Black women in a field long dominated by white men. This is the same party trying to figure out why don't men like us? Why won't men talk to Democrats or vote Democrat anymore? Enter the New York Times. One of just a relative handful of Black women in a field long dominated by white men. Hate both categories. Economics, quote, "is neither a welcoming nor a supportive profession for women." Lisa Cook and a colleague wrote in a New York Times opinion essay in 2019. She added, "But if economics is hostile to women, it is especially antagonistic to Black women." 3 years later, Biden nominated her to the Fed's powerful board of governors. Her confirmation process was a difficult one. She faced repeated questions about her qualifications. We all know that's racism. Despite a resume that included stints at Treasury and the White House, as well as extensive academic experience, Kamala Harris broke a 50-50 tie. She was the first and remains the only black woman to serve as a Fed governor, and now Trump is trying to force her out of that job. On Wednesday, Bill Pulte, the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, accused her on social media of falsifying bank records and other documents in order to obtain favorable terms on a mortgage before she joined the Fed. Trump on Friday threatened to fire her if she did not resign. Cook has spoken out often about her experience with racism, informed her approach to economics. Why are we talking about that, Ben? He's pivoted immediately to her writings about how racism has informed her approach to economics. Perhaps her best-known academic paper, that was the one I mentioned, about lynchings, decreasing the number of patents that those lynched would ultimately file. Her findings showed that economies will be less innovative and less productive when governments do not ensure their citizens' safety. Well, I think we can all agree with that. I wonder if she's been speaking out in favor of the federal crackdown in your city, Emily, right? I mean,
something tells me no.
Right. I mean, we're a very pro-black person, and we like citizen safety. And if you don't provide it, then you have a society that's less innovative and less productive. So I will have to check to see if Lisa Cook was out there tweeting in favor of Trump's takeover of the National Guard there with the police force. She's a former student. A former student of Cook's at Michigan State University was interviewed here, and she was the one who gave us that beautiful quote about they're trying to paint this woman of color as someone who's unworthy of wealth. They thought that was worthy of reprinting. They quoted her for the proposition that it's striking that they've chosen to target the Fed's only black female governor. Why? What if the black female governor was the only one who committed crime? Lady who took her class, Anna Gifty Opoku Agiman. What if Lisa Cook, as the only black woman, was the only one who committed a crime? Should we go after her or no? Multiple choice. You pick one or the other. She said it was notable that the attacks on Ms. Cook focused on her property ownership, given that black Americans were nearly 40% less likely than white Americans to own homes. You see, a black person gets a home, never mind two, and old whitey has to step in to take it away or say she didn't deserve it. That's what's really happening here, Emily.
This is, by the way, how Dems ended up with Kamala Harris as the nominee when yes. Biden was too old. And just about everybody looks back on that and says, if Joe Biden had picked a better vice president, maybe 2024 would not have panned out the way that it did for us. But because Joe Biden came out immediately and said, we are going to pick a woman of color for the position, they ended up with somebody not viable as a candidate because, by the way, she had to drop out of the presidential election before Iowa, the primary election before Iowa, but because they were so desperate to just check a box, which is so insulting to so many qualified people who may be black or female or both, that right. You just end up throwing somebody in there who is not qualified, who is not the best person for the job. That is what happened as Miranda Devine described in the article on Lisa Cook that you were reading from, Megyn, as this like fever dream that we all lived through, that Biden was a part of fueling, where you're just again, trying to check box as quickly as you possibly can. And the New York Times is clearly still stuck in that era, even though the rest of the country has moved on, because, again, you have a white guy living in Brooklyn who has worked in the media for his entire career, as far as I can tell, writing an article like this, which shows that the biggest bias in media is not even ideology. Ideology is downstream of class bias, because this is a case of a rich person taking advantage of the system and expecting not to get prosecuted and expecting to be above the law because there are identitarian reasons that can be the shield that protects you. Again, like Ken Paxton is under investigation. Republican in Texas is under investigation for similar things. I say, great, white collar crime, let's go. But this is clearly the case of somebody thinking that they have a shield around them from white collar crime because of their identity. And the New York Times basically agreeing with it, like we are still all in 2020. And we're just expected to roll over and say, oh, yes, you're right. This is exactly the case. Pull the Tom Cotton op-ed. That's, this is the least that we can do. It's so maddening.
Yeah. And it's like, we all know what happened here. Like, she was an identity hire, as Miranda points out, and she had the right politics, because it's not all about identity. They would never put Glenn Lowry on there, famed black economist, right, who's heterodox on issues of race. He's not aggrieved. He doesn't hate America. He wouldn't do the things they want him to do. He would actually follow the math and the science and actually just call balls and strikes. But that's not okay. You need somebody with their thumb on the scale if you're hiring as a Dem. Or if you just want to go for black lady, we could do Carol Swain. She's a respected university professor, not in economics. She's from the School of Law, if memory serves. But my point is, like, there are qualified people out there who would check all the identity boxes who have the wrong politics, you see. But this woman said all the things about reparations and defunding the police and how evil they are, and also Trump and white supremacy. And therefore, she got fast-tracked right into the spot. And I'm sure they didn't kick those tires and pull the mortgage applications, which honestly, again, for this job would be an obvious thing you just wanted to make super sure she was fine on, right? It's like a known thing, the mortgage application. Like, is it correct or isn't it? At a minimum, you go back and say, yo, Lisa, you might want to like reapply and fix that before we run you through. Like, we could say, oh, came to my attention, I fixed it. Nope. Even asking, even probably like pushing her on it would have been racist sexism. But the Biden administration would have been interested in doing that anyway. So Ben Castleman, the white guy in Brooklyn, writes the white savior piece. That's what you did, Ben. You tried to be the white savior, which is also racist. You're a racist pig. And goes to the former student who puts it all in racial terms, a woman of color, who unworthy of wealth. This is, okay. I think she's going down. I think all three of these folks are in a lot of trouble, especially Schiff. He's in a lot of trouble. Like, I'm interested in Tish James's defense that she told the mortgage broker a couple weeks before she filled out the form wrongly that this would not be a primary residence. If she can show that, that may help her. We'll see. I haven't seen any such defense for Adam Schiff. I have not seen any such defense for Lisa Cook. I have only seen yet another person here who looks like she's committed fraud and got away with it for years before Bill Pulte started kicking these tires. So we'll see. And the balance of the Fed Board of Governors may depend on how this goes. And for that, Democrats, you have only yourselves to blame. Okay, let's keep going. Speaking of lawfare against various people, that's what the Dems say is happening to John Bolton. As the extraordinary scene unfolded Friday, we were off on Friday. We've been taking summers off on Fridays off in summer, or at least in August. And it's been quite nice, I have to say, a lot of extra time with the fam. But on Friday, I was like, holy, when I saw the raid at John Bolton's house. And I mean, I wasn't totally surprised. And the audience knows I'm totally in favor of it, 100% in favor of it. They will not learn until it's done to them. And by the way, he should not be the only at all. We need bigger scalps than his. If you didn't do anything, you don't have to worry. You really don't have to worry. Like, I'm not worried. I didn't commit any crimes. We don't hire illegals in my family. We don't commit fraud in our documents. I'm fine. But if you divulge classified information to your family, or worse, which is what Mike Davis is intimating, that it's worse than that he took classified information to write his book, then you might need to be a little bit more careful. You might need to be worried when people come sniffing around. And so the FBI goes, raids his house, or searches his house, and he hasn't yet been charged with anything, but he could be. Here's the piece I want to get to, and we touched on this on Morning Update. You had leftists from the Biden administration out there on CNN on Friday, and I was off, so I was watching some of the news coverage, melting down. Not just over what they saw was a lot lawfare. They hate lawfare. That's so wrong. We don't abuse the justice system to go after our political enemies. I mean, literally, they want us to listen to these guys say this. Like, they don't get it. And then secondly, to point out how inappropriate Kash Patel and Pam Bondi's tweets were the morning of the raid. Kash tweeted, "No one is above the law," at FBI agents on a mission, or on mission, at 7:03 a.m. Friday. At 7:45 a.m. Friday, Pam Bondi tweeted, "America's safety isn't negotiable." Justice will be pursued, always. Okay, so that's, and Bongino tweeted, public corruption will not be tolerated at 7:16 a.m. Those are pretty generic. They don't mention anybody's name. They don't say specifically a raid is underway. The closest is Kash Patel saying FBI agents on mission, which, I mean, that could just mean like on goal, right? Like they're on, we here every day are on mission. In any event, pretty benign. Here's Andrew McCabe on CNN in the 8 a.m. hour and his reaction to this, which is indicative of everything that happened during all the coverage I watched on CNN. But here's a taste. Watch.
What do you think about the FBI director tweeting that out as this is happening?
So I should say, with respect to the director's social media posting, I mean, it's yet another example of, in my opinion, Kash Patel failing to live up to the example of his predecessors. He wanted to draw attention to this law enforcement, this sensitive law enforcement activity at John Bolton's house, which anytime you draw press attention to a search warrant execution, you are elevating the risk that is posed to both the agents and the occupants at that place. So it's a pretty irresponsible thing to do.
Totally irresponsible. It would be deeply irresponsible and dangerous, both for the target of the raid and the FBI agents. It's not done, except when it is done to people like journalist James O'Keefe, who had his home raided by Joe Biden's DOJ because they thought he had Ashley Biden's diary, or may have engaged in discussions about buying it, which is not illegal. And they know that. They know that it's illegal to steal a diary, but it is not illegal for a press person, without having been in on the theft, to then possibly publish it, which is what James was considering, and he was open about that. That does not lead to FBI raids in normal America, only in Joe Biden's America. And everybody in the Joe Biden DOJ FBI combo was very respectful about not letting the press in on the FBI because danger. Oh, wait. Here's James O'Keefe on the Megyn Kelly Show, April 13th, 2022.
I was in handcuffs and I was in my apartment. The FBI had just executed a search warrant against an American journalist and unlawfully and broke the law. And then minutes later, I get a text message from Mike Schmidt, national security reporter in the New York Times, who somehow he knows all these details. And I don't think the neighbors tipped him off that this is something that he knew. He had leaks from the Department of Justice.
But how could that have been? The example was being set for Kash Patel by the Merrick Garland DOJ, Emily. How could the New York Times have known that James O'Keefe was being raided by the FBI in the moment it was happening? That's dangerous.
This is also, of course, a great source of mystery and intrigue surrounding the Roger Stone raid.
They just got lucky, Emily. CNN says they just got lucky the day of that raid. They just happened to be there.
This is actually what the CNN journalist who was there says. He says he just had a gut instinct. That is legitimately why he said that very morning he was hanging around with a camera outside of Roger Stone's house.
Got a little tingle about Roger Stone. I mean, we've all been there. Imagine someone being reckless at the head of the FBI. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine how far we could have fallen as a country if somebody who ran the FBI. And this is where, I also feel like it just happens so much. You mentioned Mike Schmidt. I believe that is the husband of Nicole Wallace, who's constantly has him on the show, and constantly has him on the show with other people, former intelligence agents, FBI, CIA, all of that type of stuff. We also are just numb to the fact that why the hell is CNN asking Andy McCabe his opinion on any of this? That is completely insane. If you're going to do it, you should do it very critically and be like, well, hey, sir, didn't you get us into this situation in the first place? Or isn't what you're saying complete and total bullshit because you are guilty of everything that is coming out of your mouth? But no, CNN, as they're trying to repair their own reputation, is just seriously talking to Andy McCabe like he can be a credible person to have on as an expert to talk about it. More.
That's insane.
Let me show you more of McCabe. This was in the 11 o'clock hour. I really don't do much on my days off, truth be told. I don't have a big life.
You're just watching CNN.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of I was. It was interesting that they were raiding John Bolton's house, so I tuned in. Okay, here's more. This is the 11 o'clock hour. Next, we'll do the 2 p.m. hour. Watch.
In the past, DOJ leadership has always taken the role like we don't go out of our way to draw suspicion or castigate people unless we are doing it officially in court in the form of an indictment and then going into court and proving our case. They speak through the court filings, and that is it. So I think what you're seeing from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is pretty typical for them, but it is absolutely atypical for anyone else who's ever served in those roles. And I think it really degrades the Bureau and the department's image and legitimacy in the way that they are so blatantly trying to generate social media attention for themselves. I can't think of anyone at the FBI who would call attention to a search warrant while it's taking place. I mean, you never want, tactically, you would never want to draw attention to something like that.
A lot of head nodding at this table.
Remember, Trump and those people you just mentioned, the Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Deputy, they are the ones who said during the Biden administration, these people are weaponizing the Justice Department. They are making public statements, essentially coming to conclusions, even while the search is underway. Now you have the heads of the law enforcement agencies essentially saying John Bolton's guilty even before the search is conducted.
That's right. I mean, it looks like they're trying to try this in the court of public opinion.
Oh, the horror. Try this in the court of public opinion. I mean, we've been spending the last 2 months talking about the immediate leaks by the FBI, the intelligence services to the New York Times and the Washington Post when they thought, well, when they wanted us to think Trump was a Russian stooge. I mean, ran to the Washington Post, ran to the New York Times, to Michael Schmidt. That was all part of their plan, you see. But in fairness, Trump wasn't yet indicted. He actually had done nothing wrong. So is it better to involve the press when you have an indictment or you actually think you're about to have an indictment, you have a search warrant, or is it better to involve the press when the person has done nothing wrong and you're just ginning up a fake controversy about them, Emily?
Well, yeah, and of course here they're acting like they have the upper hand, like they are pointing out some great hypocrisy on the Trump administration and MAGA's behalf when it's like, you guys have spent the last 2 months downplaying stories, disclosures that show exactly what you are condemning right now as a lot of heads are shaking at the table. Like an actual pattern of leaks and abuses of your office at intelligence agencies or of people's offices at these intelligence agencies. You've got to be kidding me. And like, right. I don't even know why I'm getting worked up about this because I'm so used to it. They've been doing this for 10 years now where they're just acting like they're babes in the woods. Like they've never seen anything like this before. I can't imagine this is unprecedented. And they have spent literally the last... They have not given serious coverage of what we're seeing coming out of Tulsi Gabbard's DNI at all. It's all a joke to them. And now they're upset about seeing it happen.
We don't go out of our way to draw suspicion or castigate people unless we're doing it officially in court in the form of an indictment. I mean, like, this is from the FBI, like that FBI that literally was completely in on the Russiagate conspiracy, was trying to unfairly, untruly cast Trump as a Russian agent. And then, need I point out, the Mar-a-Lago raid, where did they just go down there like Joe Friday and conduct that raid, just like you would expect? Why did I see evidence splayed out on the floor of Mar-a-Lago so I could read top secret, when that is not the condition in which they found the boxes or the files? They were playing pop art with us, the FBI. They made us a pretty little picture because they wanted us to see just how guilty Donald Trump was. Remember the files all over the carpet? That was not how they found them. And yet Andrew McCabe of the FBI wants us to know we do not go out of our way to draw suspicion or castigate people unless we're doing it officially in court. That's the example our FBI set. Why is the news media filming the exterior of John Bolton's house, the invasion?
Andy McCabe's FBI lied on a FISA warrant. it's just
better.
so insane.
They were doing it in court, Emily. You see that there they were drawing suspicion or castigating people in court and unfairly and untruly, but that's a footnote.
I think that may have been before or after Andy McCabe was actually the head of the FBI. He was in
It doesn't matter. It's the FBI under Joe Biden.
What did Comey do with the Steele dossier? I mean, it's just completely insane. And Obama. Yeah, it's exactly right. Like they haven't given no serious coverage to that, even though we've learned a lot more about it in the last couple of weeks. But you hear nothing about it on CNN, and I just can't believe. I mean, I actually remember watching Ron Johnson one time. This was like 2018. Explain Russia collusion to Chuck Todd, and it was clear. And this was on Meet the Press. It was clear at the time that Chuck Todd literally did not know what Ron Johnson was talking about, and I actually think that is still the case. It is 2025, and I think they legitimately have not taken the time to go into the weeds, and that's why they sound so stupid. I don't even think they understand how stupid that they look, because they've just ignored this as a QAnon MAGA fever dream, and they have no idea how bad it actually is.
Well, it's going to be really interesting because I know Mike Davis pretty well, and he does not say things that are not true. He doesn't. Trust me. I mean, like this audience knows, we started putting him on years ago when he wasn't anywhere near as well known as he is now, because I could see as a lawyer how freaking smart he was, and that he was making these predictions that were extraordinary, that even in small measures had started to come true, and nobody else had been saying them. And they were risky, bold predictions. And he is the one out there saying right now, if you think this is just about classified information in John Bolton's book, you're in for a very rude awakening. So here's some of the media coverage about this raid and how horrible it is. I mean, I'll sum it up for you there, but I'll give you a flavor in SOT 8.
This is the latest indication the Trump administration is targeting the president's political enemies.
It looks like it's just more revenge and more retribution on his political enemies.
He said he was going to go after all of these individuals, and one by one, he's slowly doing that.
Okay, so he's bad. And here's more on how he's bad, and this is bad, from ABC's John Carl in SOT 9.
So he sees this as an opportunity to, again, portray himself as the victim. This is classic Donald Trump. He spent most of his presidency portraying himself as a victim of the Russia investigation, certainly his impeachments. And now he's portraying himself as a victim of a runaway and politicized Department of Justice.
In a moment, we'll get to the stunning developments coming into the weekend, with FBI agents swarming around the home and office of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. But first, the context. This didn't happen in a vacuum. John Bolton is on a long list of Trump critics who are now facing the wrath of President Trump and his Justice Department.
The wrath. You see, Trump exacts retribution against his political enemies, but that's not what happened to Donald Trump, Emily. He's full of grievance and an unjustified whiner when he doesn't like the FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it's very important, Megyn, to have the context, as John Carl puts it. And I think maybe John Carl might be missing some of the context of where, if there is retribution, if there is revenge, I wonder if they could explain to us for what. What might Donald Trump be trying to exact revenge over? And if they had never, let's just say, Donald Trump did not go after Hillary Clinton in his first term. Could have lots of lock her up chants on the campaign trail, lots of nodding at that. There's that famous debate moment where he said, because he'd be in prison. That happened. And he did not prosecute her, did not go after her. What happened instead is that behind the scenes, we learned that people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were exacting their own, quote, insurance policy. That James Comey was enacting his own insurance policy, though he didn't put it that way verbatim. And so that is the origin. I mean, we can go back and keep peeling back the layers of the onion about where lawfare started and how our politics got coarse and became the politics of revenge. We can go all the way back. But this started with Russiagate. That is where it started. And there has never been, to your point, any justice so far for what happened. And the media is completely clueless of the actual context. And until they really do understand the context, they will not know what they're talking about. They will continue to look like complete morons. Well,
the New York Post is reporting that this is about sending classified information to his family, highly sensitive classified information from a private email server inside the White House while he was there. The New York Times is now reporting that the search warrant was linked to CIA overseas intelligence about Bolton, provided the basis for the warrant to search Bolton's house. Intelligence collected overseas by the CIA. They spoke to people who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing criminal investigation. John Ratcliffe, CIA director, provided Kash Patel, FBI director, with limited access to the intel. It involved the mishandling of classified material by Mr. Bolton. The nature of the intel collected overseas is not known. The FBI obtained the search warrant after presenting evidence to a federal judge. Bolton's office declined to comment. Getting very interesting, and this is just the first chapter. Stand by. We're going to take a quick break. What a news day. Emily stays with us. Host of After Party. Go sign up. Mondays and Wednesdays, 10 p.m. live on YouTube. Let's be honest. Afternoons can be rough. Energy fades. Cravings kick in. Yes, been there. Focus goes out the window. The quick fix? Another coffee. But that can lead to jitters or a crash later, or you're up all night. Peak's Sun Goddess Matcha is another option for you. Whether it's how the day starts or how it gets back on track, this matcha is not just a drink. It can be a better daily habit. It gives steady energy and helps you focus without the ups and downs. This is not any matcha. It's organic, ceremonial grade and grown in Japan's pure volcanic soil far away from pollution. It's shaded longer for more nutrients and blended by tea masters. That's how serious these guys are about quality. The taste is smooth, creamy, and rich, not bitter like lower quality matcha. It packs powerful antioxidants to keep you sharp and steady. Right now, you can get up to 20% off for life, plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker. It's backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. So go to peaklife.com/Megyn. That's PIQUE life.com/Megyn to try it out for yourself. Again, that's peaklife, PIQUE life.com/Megyn. Joining me today, Emily Jashinsky. She is the host of the MK Media Podcast Network show, After Party with Emily Jashinsky. You can get it on podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts, type in After Party, and it'll come up. Or you can watch it live on YouTube on Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 p.m. That would include tonight, live. You can have a drink with Emily Jashinsky. Not many people can say that. YouTube.com/@afterpartyemily. More and more are able to say it, Emily. I don't know what we're going to do with it. What's this going to do to your reputation? They've all had drinks with Emily Jashinsky. Millions of people now.
It's not good. Listen, it was enough people before. Now it's really bad. And Maureen's on tonight. So Maureen's going to be added to the list tonight.
Maureen Callahan, everybody loves her. What a great combo. I mean, who does not want to? I'm personally going to tune in and watch that live. Okay. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is like a bad penny. Just keeps coming back. Every time we think we've gotten rid of this illegal, he comes back. He's whatever. They said, you have a final order of removal. Get out. You're here illegally. But we won't deport you to El Salvador. That's the one place we won't send you, because that's where you're from. And the immigration court said, you gave us this sob story about how they're going to kill you because your poor family was targeted unfairly by some gang. And okay, you pulled on the right sob story, heartstrings. So you do need to go, but you don't have to go back there. So then nobody ever did anything about it. And Trump, Tom Homan on the illegals of this country, wisely and effectively. And they find this guy and say, oh, you got an order of removal. Get out. But then they send him to El Salvador, which technically doesn't comply with the language of this order, though, to be honest, it really does comply because if the threat is removed, that got your order of removal stayed. In other words, if the evil gang that's threatening you and it's the reason you can't go back to El Salvador has been erased, then you can be sent back to El Salvador. That has happened. They just didn't do the paperwork to reflect it. So that's really, truly the only immigration court fall down here when it comes to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. But in any event, Trump deported him back to El Salvador. Then Chris Van Hollen had drinks with him. Everyone may remember this Maryland senator flew out there and had margaritas with him because he just the Maryland man. He's just this sweet Maryland man. No talk whatsoever about the fact that He was here illegally. He appeared to be a part of MS-13. The left would like to tell us he had no gang affiliations whatsoever. Okay, the gang experts who were patrolling his area 100% thought he was gang. He was MS-13, and he was arrested, and 2 immigration courts found that there was sufficient evidence to conclude he was MS-13, and then he was pulled over for what looked like trafficking of illegals in a car that had all the seats ripped out so they could fit more people in it, going from the southern border up north. So there's a lot to cause us concern about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. But the left, Maryland man, just as a refresher, here's the left. He's just a Maryland man.
Involving the Maryland father. The Maryland father's case is in court.
And happening now, a hearing for a Maryland man.
Details about a Maryland man. Tonight, the Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
Maryland father with protected legal status.
The Maryland father with protected status.
A Maryland father with protected legal status. A Maryland father with protected legal status.
It's amazing. Okay. None of the relevant information gets in there. After the Chris Van Hollen photo op, the Trump administration quietly removed him from the El Salvadoran prison and brought him back here and boom, slapped him with charges related to the alleged trafficking of illegals. As we saw in that video, I think we actually have it, a 2022 traffic stop. And you can hear the exchange with him where the officer says, this guy's hauling people for money. What people might those be? Illegals. Here, watch this, Hot 6.
How many rows have you got in here? 4?
Where?
4 seats? 4 rows of seats?
Yeah, 3 seats. Yeah, with him. Yeah.
Did y'all put an extra one in?
Huh?
Did y'all put another one in?
No.
Did it come like this?
Use the truck.
I've never seen one with that many seats in it.
You know what you got, right?
Huh?
You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money, is what he's doing.
There you go. I stand corrected. It wasn't that they took out all the seats so that they could fit the bodies. It was that they were nice to them. They added extra seats so that they could fit all the bodies properly with a tush in the seats. So when he got back here, they charged him with trafficking. And then he got bail and he was released. So now you have this guy running around free. And much like they did with Mahmoud Khalil, the rebel rouser on Columbia campus, who they tried to deport, the left gave him the star treatment, rushed to embrace him. We love him, the Maryland dad. He just wants his say. And he held a press conference where he doesn't speak English. He was using I think it was his lawyer to translate for him. But here's just a little of what we heard him say. Sat 1.
Gracias a mi pareja de vida, mi esposa Jennifer, mi hermano César, mi madre Cecilia, y toda mi familia.
Thank you to my life partner and wife Jennifer, to my brother Cesar, to my mother Cecilia, to my children, to my nieces and nephews, to all of my family.
All right, so that was just an activist translating for him. Interesting, like in the traffic stop, he could understand English, but now suddenly he doesn't understand it anymore, that he's in front of the microphone, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so hold on, because it gets even more complicated at this point. And we'll get to the life partner, his wife and life partner, Jennifer, the one he likes to beat up. According to her. That's not Megyn Kelly speaking, that's her. So he's free for like 10 minutes because he's free pending the charges going forward against him for trafficking until he's not free because Kristi Noem has him arrested by ICE because he's here illegally and he's under a deportation order. Still, he can be deported anywhere but for El Salvador, which was the case when they first took him into ICE custody too. Kristi Noem tweets out on X, today ICE law enforcement arrested Kilmar Abrego Garcia and are processing him for deportation. President Trump is not going to allow this illegal alien who is an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, serial domestic abuser, and child predator to terrorize American citizens any longer. So he is getting deported. And the Trump administration said, we will deport you to Costa Rica. which is like a lot of people's dream to move to Costa Rica. It's supposed to be beautiful. I've never been. People love it. You can do yoga, Kilmar. You can surf. You have like blue zones down there. You're going to live forever. You're going to outlive all of us down in But he said no. I don't know why. He said no. And instead, they were like, okay, we got your backup ticket to Uganda. So he's going to Uganda now. He's being deported. And he chose that box. He wanted to go to Uganda. I guess there was some deal like in order to go to Costa Rica, you have to plead guilty to these trafficking charges. And he's like, well, I didn't do it. I'm standing on principle. So off to Uganda he goes. Maybe, because his lawyers, who are like the best funded group of people in U.S. history, he's got a better dream team than OJ, have just filed a petition in a Maryland court, because he's a Maryland man, Emily, that's all, just a Maryland dad, to stop the deportation. I don't know what the grounds could possibly be. He has a final order of removal. It clearly says you can remove him any place you want other than El Salvador. The last I checked, I'm not a geography scholar, but Uganda is not El Salvador. Even I know that. But they really, really, really want this Maryland dad to stay. Thoughts?
Well, during the break, I saw this incredible quote from one of his attorneys that Fox News posted, quote, "It is preposterous that they would send Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Africa, to a country where he doesn't even speak the language." And Megyn, this sounds very funny, right? But you know what? This is true, right? Because he doesn't speak English. And it turns out they speak English in Uganda. He's had to rely on court translators the entire time. And honestly, I've had a million different frustrations with this case because I thought the Trump administration handled it sloppily. I thought this was a case of the Biden administration's overloaded, insane asylum pipeline. Like, it was clogged beyond belief. And the Trump administration could have used this case as an example of how they were lawfully dealing with the asylum backlog, which is no easy thing to do. So I don't like how they handled it. I hate the Bukele flirtations. It just drives me crazy. That said, there is a difference between disagreeing with the process and lionizing Kilmar Abrego Garcia as some sort of martyr, which he is not. He should absolutely not be in the United States of America. He never should have been allowed to stay in the United States of America. He cooked up what is a very flimsy asylum case, and he has found himself on the wrong side of the law multiple times, and it didn't matter. He was still allowed to stay here while these cases played out. He entered the country illegally, ended up cooking up an asylum case. He had, as you alluded to, a domestic violence charge or a domestic violence call from the police that was filed against him. His life partner then took it back because that happens sadly in a lot of immigration cases. She's the mother of his child because they realized that a deportation is on the line. And so I don't know what happened there, but it looks like that's what happened. And then he got pulled over for what is also very clearly, pretty obviously, a trafficking case where you're being paid to bring people up. So they didn't have any luggage in the car. It's all just so ridiculous. And he's been allowed to stay here and create a family, which is unfair to the child now, and the mother of his child, while all of this is being processed. It is completely insane. It is what happened during the Biden administration at a mass scale. And it is so insane to act like this guy is a martyr for the cause.
Yeah. So the sweet Maryland dad and his life partner, the real story is, according to a request for a motion for a protective order she filed in August of 2020, the couple allegedly had a fight. She said that he took her phone, demanded her car keys before flying into a rage when she refused. She said she went upstairs to cook breakfast for the kids, but Abrego Garcia shut off the stove before locking the children in their bedroom. She retrieved her phone from the car and called 911, but Abrego Garcia had locked her out of the house. And when she tried to go back inside, he eventually let her in. When the officers arrived, she said he smashed her phone in front of them. She wrote about the August 2020 issue. She checked the boxes for acts of abuse, yes, including kicking, slapping, shoving, mental injury of a child, and detaining against will. Quote, he had locked kids in the room and the baby was asleep in crib. I could hear them crying. Me and my kids are afraid now. He kicked me, pushed me, slapped me in the face, and threatened me. Have photos of all the bruises left on my body. Police came, he acted violent with them and broke my phone in front of officer. I have a recording that he told my ex-mother-in-law that even if he kills me, no one can do anything to him. The document details several fights between the couple that took a turn. In March of 2020, she wrote, "He pushed me against a wall, broke a phone, a TV, and damaged the walls." November 2019, he grabbed her by the hair in the car. December of 2019, grabbed her hair in the car and dragged her out of the car, leaving her in the street just in time for Christmas. Then she rescinded it all, as you point out, so often domestic violence victims do. I would say they do in the majority of cases. And this is the sweet Maryland dad that the left is embracing. And I do mean embracing. Here they are, moments after his little speech with his little translator about his life partner and wife, who he thanks and loves so much, Jennifer, with the following chant, SOT 3.
We are all Kilmar. We are all Kilmar. We are all Kilmar. We are all Kilmar. We are all Kilmar.
Are we? I don't know, Em. I'm not sure I can relate to that one. Let's try this one. The Rapid Response Choir is at it again. It's a thing. Check it out. They show up at these events, mostly illegal events, illegal immigrants. And they got a song for Kilmar. Here it is, SOT 4.
The world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hide it under a bushel? No.
Hide it under a bushel, no. Across Maryland, I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh my God.
Across Maryland, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
This is amazing.
Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him. Leave him be, leave him be, leave him be, leave him be again. Let him free, let him free, let him free, let him free.
That happened. You gotta play that on After Party tonight.
I have to. I think I was crying when that was rolling. And honestly, I don't want to sound racist, but I sometimes really hate white people, Megyn.
It's like all the geeks you went to school with, you wonder whatever happened to. This is where they wound up, in the Rapid Resistance Choir.
It is Portlandia. Like, if Portlandia aired that exactly as was, I would have thought that they wrote it and it was satire. Yeah. That's incredible.
Maybe this will do the trick. Maybe Trump will see the choir and have second thoughts about the deportation, or Kristi Noem. She could be moved by them. I don't know if you missed this, but over in Boston, they have a lunatic running the city, Mayor Wu. She made it completely, a sanctuary city. She's never seen the illegal. She wants to deport. And because Trump feels differently, they decided to bust out the following protest there just last week, which we talked about. This was on Tuesday, SOT 5.
Oh, no.
My name is Veronica Robles. Everybody roll in your eyes. So we're going to get started with a very slow song, a beautiful song that is about a shepherd working in a field that is free for everyone.
A shepherd.
Everybody. Hoo-hoo-ya. Hoo-hoo-ya.
It's a mariachi band, complete with the outfits, all of them. Yeah, you get it. You get it. You get it. So they've taken to song, Emily, because that's like the deepest and oldest form of protest. And if you could roll the R, which I can only do a very lame amount, roll it, so much the better.
I mean, it's just like, did too many people watch the Bob Dylan movie like in the last year? Like, there's a big difference between what they're doing, by the way, and the like 1960s that they're trying to LARP as, which is that was actual dissent. And this is the entire support of, like you said, has to be one of the most well-funded legal causes in history. But of course, this is like where they're finding meaning and purpose as these wannabe rebels when they have the entire like corporate media on their side and really well-funded nonprofit organizations. And the reason that we're in this mess in the first place, and just like this cannot be repeated enough, most people who crossed during the Biden administration were trafficked. I went down there, I was talking to someone at a migrant shelter in northern Mexico in 2021, and he told me everyone who comes is trafficked. everyone who comes is trafficked. You pay a cartel, you get trafficked into the United States, and you become you become a victim of the trafficking because you're paying cartels. Cartels are getting richer and richer. And then on top of all of that, the United States system gets absolutely exploded because the Biden administration is using the system to lure people here. Then they have children here. They create lives here. They go on to work for businesses here who become dependent on them. And the system gets completely screwed up. And then we're expected to have crocodile tears in cases like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, when this is the most ludicrous case to treat as a martyr because he has all of these different serious allegations against him. It's a pattern of allegations over the course of years. So no, it's the idea that we should have sympathy. In Boston, for example, there was I think he was Dominican. There was accused of killing like a beloved local sandwich shop owner. You have to have laws. And what I think we see in these cases, what they should have been chanting in their pink vests is open borders. That's how they should have been singing for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because there's no limiting principle. They will do these protests even when the most legitimate cases of deportation are on the table. Don't make no mistake about it. It's not about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It is about having any border security.
We have our own criminals here. We don't need to import them from El Salvador or Venezuela or anywhere else. And on top of all these illegals who got in under Biden, someplace between 10 and 20 million, I just saw this past weekend on X, the government had posted a tweet. We have 55 million foreign visa holders right now in the United States. 55 million in a country of 330 million. My God. Get out, go home. Why are we so overrun with foreigners? Like, we need to have a country again. We need walls. We need to say no to all of this mass immigration, legal and illegal. I mean, it's just too much. We're overwhelmed. The systems are overwhelmed. 55 million is ridiculous. I mean, what are we, France? So now...
But these corporations are addicted to cheap labor, and that's part of what's so unfair about this. That's how
Absolutely
it
right. That's why Batya Ungar-Sargon is totally right on the fact that, like, I know you don't want to pay the Americans the working wage. We'll do it. This is why the Republican Party by the day is becoming more aligned with, union leaders than it ever has been before. Because, like, the whole Chamber of Commerce, these corporate, bosses who just want to exploit foreign labor to pad their bottom line is very unattractive. More and more of us are saying, screw you. I think most Americans would pay a couple dollars more here and there to help their fellow Americans have real jobs, as opposed to like farming out all of our jobs overseas. Apple, hi, looking at you. Or just using the so-called cheap labor here on farms and elsewhere, hotels, because they say, oh, Americans won't do that job. If you pay them well, they will. Pay them Americans have no problem getting their hands dirty. Lots of white plumbers out there and white janitors out there who will happily get their hands dirty for an honest day's wage. Pay it. Okay, the White House is tweeting. This is from the official White House account. A picture of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It says MS-13 under it, and it reads, still not a Maryland dad. That's the White House reaction. Here's reaction from resident twit Jasmine Crockett, SOT7.
ICE, for the most part, is nothing but a ride. That's all they were supposed to do for the most part, right? It's like, you know what? This person is undocumented, or this person re-enters the country illegally, all the things, and then they have an ICE hold. And then ICE gets them so that they can then send them out. That's all ICE is supposed to do. Look at them as a fancy Uber driver for immigrants. That's all they're supposed to do. And now they're running into places and doing raids, and they're falling all over each other, injuring each other. Like, we are a joke, but it is a bad nightmare of a joke.
So ICE is really supposed to be no more than an Uber ride for these illegal. This is an elected representative to Congress, a Democrat from Texas.
Listen, like, even if you don't agree with everything that ICE has done during the Trump administration, ICE was a joke during the Biden administration when they could not prosecute the laws of the country because certain sanctuary cities, which I believe Jasmine Crockett represents the Houston area, Houston is one of them. That is a joke.
I wrongly said Dallas one time, and literally every one of my Dallas viewers wrote me to beg me to stop saying that.
Okay, so you know what's a joke is all of the cartels realizing that they can funnel bodies up to the United States and get rich off of it and then use them because they're indebted as drug mules. But first of all, they're trafficking them to the tune of billions of dollars. That is what makes the United States a joke. That is what makes ICE look like a joke. It was Joe Biden that made ICE look like a joke. It was Gavin Newsom who was sitting there laughing along, as Jasmine Crockett said, that made ICE look like a joke. And a lot of people, I mean, it has created a system. This is the part that I think gets totally under discussed. It has created a system where now, because we are so addicted to cheap labor, it's going to take us a long time to readjust in the sort of like jobs department to what a country should look like, because people now need to realize that if there are mass deportations, there are job openings in these trades. There are job openings that have gone to H-1B visas literally for years and years and years that could have, we have to restart training for some of these positions because we've gotten so accustomed to H-1B labor, and it makes us just look pathetic. That is the joke. It is not actually enforcing the laws.
Okay, let's shift gears now to crime. We're kind of talking about crime anyway, but crackdown on crime as unleashed by the Trump administration. It's happening in your city. They have made significant strides. It's great to go 13 days without a murder, unless you're a leftist, in which case you're against it. Property crimes down roughly 19%, violent crime down 17%, robberies and car break-ins down by more than 40%, burglary up 6%. What do we make of that? It's almost like they've decided they can't do it on the streets, so they're just going to sneak around to the back door of people's homes and sneak in. At least 6% of them have. But in any event,
you're literally
overall,
making me wonder if I left my back door open. Now I'm like,
I know.
Damn.
You don't do that. You got to lock her up. Lock that shit up. The left is still unhappy about it. And now Trump is making noise about possibly going to Chicago next. I mean, of course, Chicago needs it. Who would dispute that? They're touting how their crime numbers are way down. Yeah, they're down from last year. They're still astronomically high. You're coming off of record highs from 4 years ago. So down a little from last year is no accomplishment. You're still close to your 4-year high. And everybody knows the south side of Chicago is like a war zone. If you want to get killed, that's where you'd go. Like if you just wanted to be killed in random drive-by gunfire, go to the south side of Chicago. So Trump is making some noise about possibly going there next with federal troops, but it's a much bigger deal, Emily, because there's not clear federal authority for that. I don't know what federal authority he's even arguing he can use. Personally, I don't see it. I'm open-minded to being shown it. But there's not some insurrection underway that he needs to tamp down in Chicago. And that's one of the limited grounds in which you could send federal troops in there. And so my own sad conclusion right now is that he doesn't have the legal authority to do it. That doesn't mean he's not going to try. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And it's one thing to have, so the National Guard in DC is now armed. So it's one thing to have armed National Guard in the federal city where, as you point out, Megyn, there's federal authority, but also the federal authority is there for a reason. And it's because you have the entire federal workforce, not the entire, but you have the core of the federal workforce here in Washington, DC. It's where Congress is, it's where the president is. There are all kinds of, like, intelligence community, there are all kinds of obvious reasons that you should have a federal city that is well protected, safe, stable, clean, all of those things. And we've taken that for granted for a really long time. It's actually why home rule exists, is why that's there, is because this is, as the founders envisioned it, the federal city. Now, we have tolerated just unbelievable levels of suffering in the Black community in our cities for way too long in this country. And so what doesn't seem like an emergency to us, because we're used to really high levels, even if they've come down from extreme highs in the 90s and early aughts, they're still very high, and particularly compared to other places in the world. I mean, we're talking about like third world countries in some cases, in some cities, in the south side of Chicago being one of them. So it should be seen by all of us as an emergency. It should have been seen by all of us as an emergency for many, many years. Does that justify armed troops? In my opinion, no, but it justifies taking a pause and saying, no more of acting like this isn't an emergency because the numbers are going down or because it's not 1994. That has to end. People are suffering. This has immiserated generations of people in beautiful cities, in wonderful parts of the city. And if you go and talk to people in Ward 8 here in Washington, D.C., they will tell you that. They will tell you that they are sick. I mean, the amount of quotes in local papers being like, yeah, I would love to see heightened law enforcement in my neighborhood. If for people in Ward 8, which is Southeast DC, Anacostia, I'm sure you could find the exact same thing in Chicago and many other cities. I'm sure Gavin Newsom, who was laughing along to Jasmine Crockett there, could go find many people saying the same in Los Angeles and Oakland. But that it's a fine line in the United States. If you have armed troops in the cities, it's just not our tradition. Maybe it's been a libertarian streak. I really don't want to have to see that. And there's a lot more to do, whether it's in DC or other cities. I mean, there's a long way to go. And I hope the Trump administration's in it for the long haul.
Normally, you would not be able to federalize and deploy the troops over objections from the locals, unless there's a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the government. Right. So that's going to be a tough one. Though, he just did deploy troops to L.A., 4,000 members of the California National Guard and 700 active duty Marines there. So we'll see whether he tries to do sort of an L.A. situation in Chicago. But he's being explicit about threatening it. Here's Trump in SOT 21.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this, and it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next.
Beautiful ladies, they were saying, please come. So the thing, like in L.A., he went out there because the troops were supposed to protect ICE. ICE was coming under attack, like actually physical attack. So they went in support of the ICE officers. Chicago, just sending the troops there, not in support of any federal mission, but just this is going to be a lot tougher legally. For him to pull off. So, I mean, it's too bad. Honestly, it's too bad because there's no appetite amongst the locals to provide protection for Chicago whatsoever. And it's not just the South Side. You get killed on the South Side of Chicago. But Michigan Avenue, Mag Mile, as they call it, Magnificent Mile, used to be one of the most beautiful, safest places you could possibly go, walk, tourist stuff, all that. Now you got to worry. Now, you don't know what you're going to encounter on Mag Mile. Here's their loser mayor who's got under 11% approval, Brandon Johnson, truly one of the worst public servants, I use that term in quotes, in America. Here he is on the Trump offer. Is it a threat? Is it an offer? It's SOT 22, the reaction.
We're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
I don't even know what that means. We're going to rise up and we're going to rise up. We're going to fight tyranny. What does that mean? Is he calling for them to rise up against federal troops? Because nobody wants that. And truly, you look at what's happening in D.C., as you just point out. You read the paper, you see all these testimonials, mostly by Black D.C. residents saying how happy they are. It's all over Twitter, now X, how happy. In fact, we have a SOT montage of the reaction from the actual people who are benefiting from the crime fighting. And I got dollars to donuts. The people of Chicago are going to feel the same as these folks I'm about to show you feel. So it's like one of those things, they need it. I don't think he has the authority to do it, which makes the next move very interesting. In any event, here's some D.C. residents.
We need all the protection that we can get in the city because the city is really getting dangerous. A person like me at this age, I have to make sure to come home before sundown. I enjoy having extra security. I think it's a good thing. I mean, you want to feel safe when you're out and about, especially females.
It's a good thing because it actually reinforces the fact that America is secure, safe, stable. As a moderate, as a centrist, I think something needs to be done. I have 3 kids. I'm about to start teaching next week. I want it to be safe.
I think this is long overdue. I've been one of the National Guards in this area for years. I like it. I love it. I feel safe already.
The mayor been in power so long, I think she's kind of
used to how things are going, and I think Donald Trump really wants to clean it up. And I'm all for it.
The crime is outrageous, and you do feel unsafe. I don't know, what's going to occur, whether it's going to be really beneficial for us or not, but something needs to happen.
Every single one of those were Black people, for the listening audience, saying they welcome the Trump intervention there. And honestly, I have been on the south side of Chicago. I have met the mothers whose sons are getting killed in the streets every day. I will bet you, Emily, they would be thrilled to see more law enforcement there and something resembling a safe neighborhood for their children.
Yeah, and what that looks like exactly, I don't know, but Brandon Johnson is using tyranny in the wrong way. The tyranny is the lawlessness. That is the tyranny, the lawlessness that is created by policymakers who hold people in these neighborhoods hostage to policies that are just their ideologies, to these ideological experiments. These are hostages to ideological experiments. That is the tyranny in this case. And just from that montage, I've been living here in D.C. for almost 15 years. There was that last lady was speaking in front of a Whole Foods. That Whole Foods had a shooting at the cashier. The amount of crime that has happened just at that Whole Foods, just within the last few years, is unbelievable. There was another person standing in front of the Wharf. The Wharf is where Pete Hegseth took pictures with some federal troops in D.C. and got mocked for doing it because it's a very nice, fancy area. Well, I know people who had to duck at dinner because they were caught in a crossfire on a patio at the Wharf when there was a shooting on a Friday or Saturday night. So the idea that this is not, the polling shows that people in DC don't approve of what Trump is doing. But what we heard from all of those people, those DC residents, is they want something to be done and they support more law enforcement. So the specifics, you may get people who are off and saying, well, okay, maybe we don't want armed national, whatever. But what they're telling you in Ward 8 and Ward 7, they are begging for a release from the tyranny of this ideological experiment. And that's the real tyranny, and that's what they want to end. And they do need more law enforcement. They also need more crackdowns on truancy. DC has a massive truancy problem. I bet it's the same in Chicago, and a lot of those schools in Chicago. So there are all kinds of things that can be done that don't necessarily involve armed troops in Chicago that can help release people from the tyranny of these stupid, stupid policies.
They're not going to get any help with the truancy. The Chicago Teachers Union runs that city. They are all powerful. And once again, just like we saw moments ago outside of the Kilmar Abrego Garcia remarks, they expressed themselves in interpretive dance. It was song in the one case, and I remind you of the interpretive dance we were subjected to during COVID by the Teachers Union of Chicago.
Make it make sense.
Amazing. Make it make sense.
Safety.
She's twirling.
Is essential.
Safety is essential.
Keep our students and our teachers safe. Safe.
Oh my God, completely able-bodied young women who refused to go in and teach the children. They were fine. They wanted to collect their paycheck and do nothing other than the interpretive dance at home. They're matched truly by their trilling liberals with the roldars and the others as part of the resistance choir. And they think they're doing something. While kids are not learning, while illegals like Kilmar are bringing more illegals into the country and allegedly beating their wives, and while American citizens, actual Americans, are getting shot and killed in places like D.C. and Chicago and Baltimore, Maryland, where Trump also had a fiery exchange with the governor of Maryland down there about what a shit show it's been in Baltimore and why he won't do anything about it. By the way, on the short list as possible Democratic presidential candidates, Wes Moore of Maryland.
What do they want? Again, this is the same thing with the immigration. There's no limiting principle for them. They don't actually want enforcement at the end of the day. They want to nod at enforcement. They want something, but their ideology, that's why all of this is happening. That's why you have people saying you can't deport someone like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and that's why you had the border policies of the Biden administration, is because fundamentally the people who designed them believe in open borders, or they're cowardly to the people who believe in open borders, and they just they thought they could get away with giving them a little of this, a little of that. And it's exactly what happened in Washington, D.C., where you have a corporate Democrat like Muriel Bowser. You can do the same thing with Eric Adams. He tried to have policies that bowed to the left wing of the party and said cost-benefit analysis. It's better to have crime policies, to do progressive crime policies for a little bit. And they realized that it was untenable and cracked down again. Same thing with Muriel Bowser. She was happy to say it was a sanctuary city. They were all happy to go along with the crime bill. And now they're begging for the crime bill to be changed and revoked because they realized the results of the experiment. But fundamentally, where does it stop? Are they willing to actually give the middle finger to the base that is saying anything short of full progressive crime policy implementation is racist and bigoted and classist? When, of course, that is insane. It is all of these policies that hurt underclass or lower class and underadvantaged minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, who are then suffering in these neighborhoods and tell you they don't want to fund the police. So there is no, that's the thing. What do they actually believe? I want to know what Muriel Bowser, what do you actually believe should be Brandon Johnson, Wes Moore? What should enforcement look like? Because if it's getting rid of cashless bail, if it's getting rid of all of these things, you're in a wake-up call for what that's actually going to look like. And we all saw it. And some of them walked it back, but we all saw the experiment play out during COVID.
I think it's great he's trying to do something about cashless bail. On that one, he's saying by executive order, I'm going to withdraw federal funding for any city that's doing cashless bail. Like I'm not funding your cities if you continue this, because it's pointless to have this revolving door of criminals in, criminals immediately out, back on the streets doing the same crimes. And now that's interesting because he does have the power of the federal purse, he in Congress, and he to some extent. And like he actually he's going to get a legal challenge on it, but he's got a better leg to stand on that one, I think, than the federal troops. He's also, I think, doing an executive order on banning the burning of the flag. That's not going to hold. We're going to cover that on an AM update tomorrow. Stand by for more on that. But this one, like you'll get rid of your cashless bail or I'll withdraw my federal funds. That's closer to what he's doing to like the Harvards and the Columbias of the world, which is legal. You may or may not like it, but it's legal. Okay, stand by. We're going to do more with Emily on the back end of this. I'm sorry to report to you, Bill Maher has gone absolutely nuts on the overreach by Trump. Bill's great, but he's got the TDS, and the TDS has reared its ugly head. That cookie calling your name at 3 p.m., the midnight fridge raids, the extra slice of pizza you swore you would not eat. If you feel like your cravings control you, it's not just willpower. It could be your gut crying for help. That's why I want to tell you about Just Thrive Probiotic and their digestive bitters. See, modern diets often lack essential bitters compounds that manage appetite hormones like GLP-1, the same hormone in those expensive weight management shots. Just Thrive's digestive bitters give you the power of 12 clinically proven herbs that help your body break down food efficiently while supporting GLP-1 production naturally. Controlled cravings, less bloat, steady energy, and comfortable digestion. Try Just Thrive Digestive Bitters and Just Thrive Probiotic today at justthrivehealth.com and use code Megyn for 20% off your first order. 20% off your first order. Justthrivehealth.com, code Megyn. Your body will thank you. The American dream has changed. Forget the white picket fence. For most Americans, the real dream is getting out of debt. If you are feeling the pressure from rising prices, mounting credit card debt, and just trying to stay afloat, I want you to know there could be a way out with Done With Debt. They have one goal: break you free from debt permanently. They're not pushing loans or bankruptcy. Instead, their tough negotiators go straight to your creditors, slashing what you owe, wiping out interest, and eliminating penalties. And the best part? Most clients see more money in their pocket in the first month. You have worked too hard to let debt steal your future. With Done With Debt, your dream of being debt-free could be possible. Visit donewithdebt.com. Speak with one of their experts. It's completely free. But some of their solutions are time sensitive, so don't wait. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. So, Emily, my old pal Bill Maher is at it again. He's got this, the TDS gets in his eyes sometimes, and he says some wacky things, and here's one of them, SOT 23.
I don't know if I was the first one to use the phrase slow-moving coup. If there was a slow-moving coup, Let me just describe some of the steps, and you tell me if I'm being paranoid. First, create a masked police force. Normalize snatching people off the street. Normalize seeing the National Guard and the military. Have other states start sending their troops. So you have in the capital a sort of permanent police presence. So when an election dispute might come up, just hypothetically, I'm going to pretend for the rest of the duration that the Democrats do have a chance of winning, and they might win the next election. I just don't think they're ever going to take power, because this is what's going to happen. Because I think this coup is going to go off a lot smoother than the last one.
Oh, so you see, Trump's not going to leave office. And that's why he's bringing troops into D.C. so they can be permanently stationed there, so they can make sure he stays in office for a third term, even though it's unconstitutional. And the masked police, meaning the ICE agents whose homes are being doxxed, whose children are being harassed, they don't want to be doxxed by these illegals and the activists really around the illegals who are doing it. That's why the ICE agents are wearing the masks. That's been pretty clear. People have talked about that from ICE. The troops in D.C., again, we've gone over that here. Federalized forces setting up a permanent security state. Okay, by the way, was there anything close to the current, is the current so-called security state anywhere close to what the Dems had after J6 for months on end in D.C.? Like, nobody complained about that. It was like an insurrection that was like 2 hours long, but we had to have D.C. armed guards all over the city for months on end, Emily. It's just crazy talk.
Journalists couldn't get in to cover Congress. They made it very, very difficult for journalists to get in through Nancy Pelosi's little fence, not little, big fence, to go cover Congress at the time. And also members of the public. It was very hard for them. This was all done under COVID emergency measures to get in and talk to their representatives. Also, this is not permanent as of right now. It is temporary. They have to renew it every month or so. I think it's like a 20, 30-day thing. So we don't know that there's anything permanent about this in D.C. yet at all. And lastly, if the National Guard had been activated on January 6th, and I know this because I was reporting live from the Capitol in the middle of the mob, you would never have had a mob in the first place if the National Guard had been activated. So I don't actually even know what he's saying.
Some leftists really cannot get over their belief that Trump is a fascist and that every move he's making is not because he genuinely wants to lower the murder rate in Washington, D.C., but there has to be some ulterior, very dark motive. Ali Velshi, who's now on MSNBC, went off on this. Again, it was a slow Friday. Same thing.
Now I know it was a really slow Friday because you were bringing Ali Velshi
I really
into this.
Need a life. But same exact tone, this is very dark and Trump's seizing control of institutions. It's like, no. What's happening is you people had control of every institution, from the universities to the Kennedy Center to big business on down. And Trump is bit by bit taking on these institutions to say, what you're doing with respect to skin color-based hirings is illegal. You must stop it. What you're doing over here with anti-Semitism running rampant and the open harassment of Jews actually happens to be illegal. What you're doing over here in your hiring practices, you can't do that anymore. The Smithsonian needs an overhaul. Yes, it does, because we're obsessed with slavery. The Kennedy Center only rewarded leftist artists who were woke. We're not doing that anymore. And they can't stand it, that he's evening the scales. He's removing or trying to remove the leftist poison from all these institutions so that it just settles down to something closer to normal, and they can't stand it.
Well, and they're not helping themselves with these overreactions. And I actually have to restrain myself sometimes and think a little bit further to not have Trump derangement syndrome. Think a couple of steps ahead, because some of the stuff that Bill Maher was listing, for example, I don't like that ICE agents have neck gaiters pulled up over their faces. I just don't like it. I don't like it as an American. Is it part of a slow motion coup? No. And that's where no. Is there a permanent police state in Washington, D.C. when Donald Trump has invoked temporary measures? no. And so sometimes it's just, because Trump's opponents overreact, we end up getting two choices. You end up with insurance policy Peter Strzok FBI, or then Donald Trump putting Matt Gaetz in charge of the Justice Department.
Oh boy.
And so instead of, which was the first pick, obviously. So instead of just taking a breath and having a rational, reasoned, democratic, center-left response, you end up with insanity. And it's like we can't have a normal conversation because of it.
Mm-hmm. Bill Maher had on Andrew Huberman of Huberman Labs, and he's like a health expert. And he gave one tip saying if you can't fall asleep, like if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back to sleep, to take deep breaths and to close your eyes and to move your eyes left and right. That is hard. This literally happened to me last night. It happens a lot.
Me too. Oh my gosh. I saw that clip go viral. I did the same thing.
I'm like, it does it. Try it. Close your eyes and try to move your eyes left to right. It's like you're not sure if they're moving. Are they moving? I don't know if they're moving. I can't really tell. I don't feel them actively moving. It's very hard, and I got to be honest, it did not put me back to sleep. Andrew, I'd like another tip, please. I speak for all women of a certain age. Emily, thank you. We'll check you out on After Party tonight at 10 p.m., and we'll see all of you tomorrow with the Fifth Column. Love those guys.